They say perfection is the enemy of good, right? And I've talked about this before, and I do say it's part of like the Western conception of what we believe a hero is supposed to be, which is usually like a young person who understands everything, and then they just have like either the epiphany or like within the story they figure it out after they go on the quest and they fail, and then the second time they do it they somehow figure it all out and they save the world. Sometimes it takes them 3 books, sometimes it takes them 1 book, sometimes it literally takes them like 3 paragraphs. But like when you're living life and you're actually like navigating through things, it's like, when do you get to the point where you figure out what's the best thing to do? Because I don't think that like exists really. I'm only saying that because I think about like Ta-Nehisi at the end of the message was talking about how young writers are going to be the people who change the world. Or I was thinking about The Responsibility of the Artist by James Baldwin, which he has like several different speeches talking about the responsibility of the artist, of the writer. And then I also think about like rest is resistance, and like, you know, being able to put your happiness first, and you know, in terms of like the world of oppression where everybody is trying to kill you and ruin your joy, just being able to exist and be joyful and all of these things, right? Trying to figure out like, we understand that perfection is the enemy of good. Trying to be perfect will end up with you not either doing anything or going in a direction that you really don't want to go to, because you're trying to portray perfection which doesn't exist, right? And also because there are so many things going on, and like you feel like there's a certain responsibility that you hold as somebody who has like either a certain level of privilege or a certain level of knowledge to speak to people, and thinking like, okay, now I have some level of influence, right? When people are reading my things, people are watching my things, people are engaging with me. So in that sense, shouldn't I be putting my best foot forward to try and move the world in a way that is like more progressive, more loving, more accepting? Because, you know, you read these authors like James Baldwin and Toni Morrison and Bell Hooks, Audre Lorde, right? And they're amazing authors and they're amazing pioneers. And as an writer myself, they're people that I look up to, especially when it comes to like working in radicalized spaces or revolutionary work, or like what does that really look like. But then also you understand that they were human beings, and there are things that they did or they said or they believed that may not really line up with what I believe is right in this current moment. Like being able to acknowledge that they've done things that you wouldn't say is right, or held prejudices that you personally wouldn't hold, in also understanding that you also hold ideals that aren't like perfect, because there isn't like a perfect, but there is your best and there's trying. And sometimes trying feels like you can't try your, like you need to try more, but there's like you cannot try more than your best, but you feel like your best is not enough, because it's like you kind of been working on this conception that it just takes one person with a great mind and people follow them, and then it's like, ooh, boom, everything's done, everything's finished. Like we needed just to follow that one person. They're the leader, they'll figure it out. And it's like, I don't think it works like that. I think we know that it doesn't work like that. It actually is a lot longer and a lot more mistakes and setbacks and pushbacks, and trying to figure out who the person is or who the people are, and then being disappointed in those people and trying to figure out, okay, well, what's the next direction that we go to so that we can figure out like what's the best thing for us. And then also trying to figure out like, okay, what am I holding in me that's keeping me from being able to truly like understand the people who I'm trying to help, right? And then having a level of help and care for yourself, because that's the thing too. You have to be able to have like love and care for yourself to be able to show that love and care to other people. You know, you won't be able to like really embody that without being able to do that for yourself. It's just weird. It's weird because sometimes it feels like if I'm being too playful, if I'm like just chilling and relaxing and doing the thing, then I'm not giving enough energy to real issues, right? But can you sit and do that all the time as a human being, knowing that we live in a world where it's just like nonstop? Like, it doesn't matter if you talk about one thing over and over and over again. Even if somehow you figured out that one thing, the next thing will come. or the next thing is there and you're just not paying attention to it, and it's not something that you know because it's not like in your realm of consciousness, but it'll be like, oh yeah, that's also something that you may need to advocate for. Like the work is never done. And that's why I think about that quote all the time, like you cannot, you're not here to inherit the entirety of the world's grief. You literally can't. Like there's so much pain and suffering in the world. You literally cannot, as one person, hell, even like a coalition of people, can't take on everything. But you do have an obligation to try. You're gonna get it wrong. And then what's wrong for some people and what's wrong for you and what's wrong for you, literally even what's wrong for you currently probably wasn't what's wrong with you like 3 years ago or even 15 years ago. What you thought was wrong is like now you're like, oh shoot, I don't even know why I thought that way. Like I'm moving differently now. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what being an adult and trying to get in an area where I'm like, okay, if I really want to help people and inadvertently help myself, what does that look like, and how do I navigate that while, you know, being somebody who is also like trying not to fall into a pit of despair and not become like this empty vast husk of a person because I didn't understand like the boundaries of certain things. Do you know what I mean? Like being too scared to be selfish when it's like literally it's either that or vanquish, like you're just done. You know what I mean? That's what I think about every day.